When I think of things that work every single time, I can think of nothing. There's no modern piece of hardware or software that works every time, especially once you become a homeowner, you realize that everything breaks all the time, 100% of the time, when you least need it to. But this piece of information, as far as knowing your way around the guitar fretboard, will work 100% of the time, every single time. So this is an extended version of a YouTube short that I posted last week that was about just taking any major chord that you'll ever see, right? We're gonna do this in the people's key, key G. You take a root note, and then notes that are gonna correspond with this root note in a major chord are gonna be very easy to remember, okay? It's not even like one shape, it's just a pattern of 2 notes each. You can think of it as a scale, you can think of it as a way to accompany chords. There's a million different things that we can do with just this one way of thinking. That you'll always have something that you can do, and it's gonna work every time. Unlike my air conditioner, my car's battery, not the main battery, the smaller battery that starts the main battery, why is that a thing? That's stupid. You know what does work all the time? I lied. Elixir strings. Elixir strings work all the time for getting you the best tone out of your acoustic guitar or electric guitar. This video is sponsored by Elixir Strings. Please click the link below, go to Sweetwater, get yourself a pack of Elixir strings, support the channel. Helps me out a lot, and also it keeps me working all the time. That's one thing that works all the time, the Sean Daniel work ethic. So yeah, definitely click that affiliate link in the description, get yourself strings, you need them, they're gonna last you forever, right? So we've got this root note for G major chord. I'm gonna play it like a bar chord, you can play it like an open chord. However you play a G chord, you can play G major 7. Doesn't matter, but the root note, the 3rd fret on that low E string is what we're gonna hone in on. And then we're gonna think of these 6 spots that correspond off of this root note. Any major chord. Take the note, a step higher, 2 frets higher, so 3 to 5, and then you start this chain reaction where it's just 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 7, right? A note, whole step higher, same thing down a string, same thing down a string. Okay, so we can talk about the names of these notes. We start with a G. A, B, D, E, G, A. So again, you can think of this as pentatonic, right? 5 just different notes, then we end with an octave A. There's a lot of things you can do just with this. You could use this little location, this shape, as a way to riff off of a single chord. But what if I told you that you could use this over any major chord in this same key, right? In any key, there are 3 major chords, the 1, the 4, and the 5, all right? What that means is if you look at the major scale, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, the 1st note, the 4th note, and the 5th note become major chords, right? That happens to be a G, a C, and a D. G major, C major, D major, G. Works for any of these, right? So we start on that C, the 3rd fret on the A string, do the same thing. We go a step higher, and now we start 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 7. Now you notice there's an overlap here between the G, there's A, B, D, E, G, A. When we start on C, we kind of pick up the overlapping spot. These 2 strings, the A and the D string, kind of get shared between them. That's why the nice thing is it's very, very easy to visualize where these notes occur. But really, you know, you're not playing extensions of the chord as far as chord tones. They might not be notes that are in that chord. Like I said, a C major chord is a C and E and a G combined. We're playing a C, there's the E, right? And then there's the G, so those notes are all in there, but we're adding extra notes, so we're kind of extending that. Not playing the full major scale, but we're playing pretty much the gist of it, right? And then once you add these to other chords, you end up getting a full picture of the entire scale, but you're doing it in a way that is the same shape over and over again, okay? So we've got, again, G, and the same thing on the C, 3rd fret on the A string, 5, 7, 5, 7, extending into the G string, 5, 7. Then that 5 chord, G, A, B, C, D, D major, 5th fret, is where our D note is. We're we're gonna go a step higher. 7, 9, 7, 9, 7, 9. Okay? So, we can do these all in a row. This is a great picking exercise. I'm just kind of alternate picking. G, C, D, G, G. Kind of has a fun little ring to it. C. That major sound is just what I need after spending $1,200 on my garage door opener that just decided to stop working. It's a component thing. Parts and labor, $1,200 just to get the door to work. Oh, what's that? The AC in the guest room and the living room don't work now too? That's a true story. That just happened in the last 3 days. So please, I beg you, buy some of these strings. I need you to. I desperately need you to. And I also desperately need to make this a little less fun sounding. Let's bring in the minor scale too, right? So the cool thing about starting on that D, this brings us into the relative minors territory, okay? So the relative minor in the key of G, you always just go 3 frets back. 1, 2, 3 is E minor, okay? Now one thing that I learned really quickly was the E minor scale, right? Because it's super, super easy. Open 2, 3, open 2, 3, open 2. So let's add the full scale, which is the same notes we've just been playing, but in a minor context, right? When we do that D right here, da 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 da, we start from that D, we go into an E note, that's where E minor chord would be. Let's play that scale right here. So, E minor scale starting on the 7th fret on the A string looks like this. 7, 9, 10, 7, 9, 10, 7, 9. Again, this is just the octave higher of that. We're using the same notes, but ordering them starting on an E gives us that minor sound. Great for riffing, okay? So a lot of this is really just kind of like creating little riffs, fills in between your chords, stuff like that. The nice thing about that is, if we're playing, it's like, all right, I've got that first shape down. I've got my root note, maybe it's an open chord. I'm visualizing that symmetrical thing. Maybe I'll slide a step higher, and then I'm all of a sudden in that minor scale territory that we just talked about, right? So I think it's really cool, and I think it'll sit better in your brain to start linking these shapes together in a way where you're combining different concepts, right? And it's one thing to be like, all right, I'm gonna learn all the notes in the key of G, and I'm gonna learn my G major scale, then maybe I'm gonna learn my A Dorian mode, then I'm gonna learn my B Phrygian mode, then I'm gonna learn my C Lydian mode, and then D mixed Lydian, stuff like that. That's one way to really put those puzzle pieces together, which can be helpful. I think it's more helpful to think about, okay, this is like a cool little exercise of things that just line up in a fluent, symmetrical way. And then we're like, all right, well, there's the C, and there's D. And then, all right, well, you know, that second note in D's spot, which I kind of go, that actually second note can be its own thing. And there's that full minor scale. And then eventually you can kind of start noodling around, which again is great practice just because you're kind of doing it in a focused, non-focused way. You're kind of doing it, also not kind of doing it. Like, you know, me just leaving the back door unlocked while I'm waiting to get the garage door fixed. It's like, it's kind of safe, it's kind of not safe. If anybody knows where I live, they could just come on in the back. I'll be waiting for you. I'll get you a nice drink. It's hot out there. Right, so there's E minor. Now again, we can start linking these together. So let's do the same thing where we'd go G, C, D, and then for the D, and then I'm gonna go forward through that D chord, bum, 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 and then I'm gonna come back out through the minor scale. Right? Because again, doing things forward and backwards is really kind of what you have to do. Nobody ever wants to do stuff backwards. I was the same way. I remember learning arpeggios. I was like, oh, I can do a G major arpeggio. And then I'm going backwards. I'm like, yeah, sure, that's right. So, thinking about this in a way that we're going backwards, I think is a much easier way, because seeing that minor scale shape kind of resets the whole exercise and pattern, because we're pulling that from a different part of our brain instead of maybe getting stuck in this little mini exercise. It's like, all right, well then I could go back, and then I'm here, and then I'm here. It's like, no, it's like, all right, we're on the D major part. And again, the tell there is whenever I use my pinky. Screw that up. That's what I'm thinking minor scale shape, okay? And again, the more that you can kind of see these symmetrical shapes and fingerings and positions in different contexts, the more you'll see them overlap. And in my experience, the overlapping is what really made things like super solid for me, because I think most of us out there can do kind of like a whole step slide, right? Just work on your ring finger, 5 to 7. That's not too bad. That's one of those, once you start doing slides or hammer-ons, it's like that's the thing that we can get under our belts fairly quickly, yeah? And that 2 fret, there's something about 2 frets at a time, a whole step where your fingers just kind of line up, whether it's your pointer finger and your ring finger, it could be your pointer finger and your pinky. There's something about that interval, that spacing, that, if you drill it a lot, I think most guitarists can handle that. So it's really using that spacing to our advantage, and instead of doing things that might be a little more complicated, like maybe more complex fingerings that change a lot, let's just keep that interval, and then just move that interval around. Use what you already know, and then apply it all over the neck. And starting with the root note and thinking of a chord as a major chord, until we get to the minor scale. Is great, right? And the reason I picked these 4 chords, aside from them just being the 3 major chords, is some combination of the 1 chord, G, the 4 chord, C, the 5 chord, D, and the 6 chord, E, 1 4 5 6, 1 5 6 4. However you organize that, those are the most common chords that you're going to see pop up. We could do it again really quickly in the key of A, right? Everything is just movable. So now we just take an A, step higher. We don't even have to talk about the notes in the key of A. I just know that going a step higher is going to lead me into the 5 chord or into the overlap from the 4 chord, right? So there's D, and then we already know D from the previous key that we did, the key of G, is the 5 in the key of G. Well, it's actually the 4 in the key of A, right? So there's D. Then E major. And then we can actually get whatever note this is, the 9th fret on the A string. Nobody knows the name of that note, but I know that's where the minor scale is in the key of A. Okay? So it's all about making those connections, being able to move them around, putting elixir strings on your guitar, because again, I gotta pay for this garage door. I gotta pay for this air conditioning. I don't really have to pay for the air conditioning in the guest room. I'll just not have guests. If anything, that's a win for me. But the garage door I do need. Need to be able to use that garage door to get the Jeep inside, because I'm too lazy to put the top on. It's a whole, my life is in shambles. Other than this amazing Elixir string sponsorship and this incredible Taylor 816 CE Builder's Edition guitar, right? So anytime you see a major chord, think of where that root note is, and then just move into that and then start riffing. G. slower than that, or you can do it a lot faster than that, depending on what kind of speed you're working with. It's not about speed. It's about seeing it. It's about getting something that works every single time. Thank you so much for watching this video. Like I said, thank you to Elixir for sponsoring the video, Best Strings in the Game. If you have any questions or comments, hit me in the comment section, Instagram, Twitter, or the website. I'll talk to you all soon. Thanks a lot.